Hey y'all, today I wanted to talk about choices that you have during your C-section or your scheduled C-section or any sort of C-section that you may be having. I had two very different C-section experiences. My first birth with my daughter was a natural delivery. My second birth was I was induced and ended up with a C-section because he was too large, and then this third time around I had a scheduled C-section. So my first experience was traumatic and horrible, and I knew that for the second time around, second C-section, that I wanted things to be a lot different. So I kind of made a list of priorities to push and ask for and, fight for myself and for the baby. And I started towards maybe 20 weeks on, getting all those things figured out. So I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit of the story, and then throughout it, just kind of mention when that was a choice that I pushed for and got, when it wasn't something, it wasn't routine. It was something out of the routine that they would normally do. So the first thing that I would say was a choice that I made was, they tell you just in general, any hospital type induction or surgery or anything like that, not to eat 12 hours before, or you can have something up to midnight the night before or up to a certain time, and you can't take medications, eat, drink, blah, blah, blah. Now, that being said, being a pregnant person who is so used to drinking copious amounts of water and eating snacks and this and that, the thought of not being able to eat or drink, number one, was horrible to me. So just a little tip that helped my C-section, or helped me, is I went to bed the night before, probably like 9 o'clock. And I set my alarm for 11:30. I couldn't eat after midnight. I set my alarm for 11:30. I got up a yogurt, a peanut butter fold over, and I think like a couple of cuties or some cutie and a banana or something like that, and went back to sleep. Now at that point, I did take this is something that I had to ask and get permission for. I take prescription medication for heartburn, acid reflux, and they typically don't allow you to take your medications or anything. So I got permission to take my medication. I take 2 a day. I took one at midnight, and then that morning I had to be at the hospital at 10. I took another one at 10 o'clock. And I had to push for that and ask for that, because in no way does that interfere with anything they would have done or given me or for the C-section. So I pushed for it and said I have to take that medication or I'm miserable, and they allowed me to. So that was kind of, they normally would just say nope, nothing, you can't have any of that, but my hospital allowed me, and my doctor allowed me to have ice chips and take my medication all the way up until we went back to the OR. So just ask. I mean, especially if it's something like that is going to cause you to be miserable, just ask. The next thing was, and I cannot for the life of me remember what this is called, but before you have any sort of surgery, to my knowledge, I haven't had very many surgeries, but last time when they decided to do emergency C-section with Edison, they made me drink, I can't remember, it's really bitter and disgusting, some sort of liquid that neutralizes the acid in your stomach. As soon as I swallowed that, I vomited it back up. And excuse me, I did not want to vomit this whole experience of having Holden. So I asked my doctor about it, and he said the only thing you can do is just refuse to take it. You can refuse anything at the hospital. Some things you refuse, and they may just say, sorry, we can't do whatever we were going to do because you refuse it. But in this case, I knew that wasn't 100% necessary. So when she brought the medication in and said, I need you to drink this, I just said, sorry, I'm not drinking it. And she said, okay. just, I mean, anything like that to you that for your instance in your situation that is uncomfortable for you and you know that it isn't 100% necessary or medically necessary, just refuse it. Just say you're not going to take it. So I refused that, which was so awesome to not barf before the birth. I did not want to throw up before the birth. So, yeah, that was awesome. So the next thing that was really horrible about my other C-section is that I was extremely nauseated almost the whole operation. And I knew it was because of blood pressure and just like, anyway, it was just a whole bunch of factors. But this time I had been warned that once they give you the spinal block, that your blood pressure can drop really rapidly, which can cause you to get nauseated and throw up. So I asked if they could administer a nausea medication prior to starting the spinal and then, you know, throughout the C-section because I just did not want to throw up. Like, I was like, please, Lord, don't let me throw up. So they said yes. I got 20 minutes before they did my spinal, I got nausea medication. And then I also got administered some during the C-section just to kind of, because I was feeling a little bleh. And that's not something they typically, or at least at my hospital, she said they don't typically give, you know, specifically nausea medication. So that really, really, really helped. I couldn't have anything to relax me or to anything like that because it could go straight to the baby. Oh, there's a bee. Please don't sit on me, bee. Okay, the bee went away. Anyway, I couldn't have anything like that because it would go to the baby. So at least if I could have something just to make me not throw up. Okay, the next thing that last time with Edison, they knocked me out like right after he came out because of my blood pressure and having a panic attack. So I didn't get to see him. I didn't get to do skin to skin. I didn't get to do anything bonding wise with the baby. So this time around, I really wanted to, within 5 minutes of him being born, I wanted him to be on me, on my chest. And the first few times that I discussed that with the hospital or the doctor, I was told that's not typically something we do. And, you know, I just kept talking to someone different until I got them to say that yes, they would allow it for a certain amount of time. So what they did is he was born, Wayne went over to him over in the, I think they did the bracelets, normal thing, the footprints, like, I think it's APGAR, I think they did those, that score, yes you may, that score or testing, and once he passed that, it was within 5 minutes. They just put a diaper on him and brought him over to me, and they put his little face like right here, and his body was along my chest, like with his feet and legs over here, and just covered us up with a blanket, and he got to stay there for like 20 minutes, which was absolutely wonderful and awesome, and such a bonding experience for me and the baby that I don't feel like they typically allow moms to have when they have a C-section. So it was really awesome. The next thing was with my C-section with Edison, I was given morphine, a pain medication, almost directly after, I think even while I was still awake, before they knocked me out. I don't remember. I have to go back and read. But it really knocked me out, and they really couldn't wake me up in recovery, and I just didn't want that again. I wanted to be as alert and awake as possible, just I didn't want to be in tons of pain. So I asked if I could have minimal pain medication, and they were very receptive to that and said, that is perfectly fine with us. We want you awake and we want you to be able to nurse your baby. So I was only in recovery for like less than 45 minutes, and I had the baby with me almost the whole entire time. I think he wasn't in there for maybe like 20 minutes, and then they gave him to me, and then they wheeled us to our room. So I got to nurse him within, it was a little over an hour after he was born. I got to nurse him, so that was absolutely one of the things that I wanted the most was to have him right back with me after they did exactly what was necessary so that we could get him latched in nursing. So I just pushed for things like that, and I felt like that was that helped the experience. It's not fun to have a C-section. It's not most people's first choice of a way to deliver a baby, but if it's something that you have to do and something you have to have, you want the experience to be a lot more enjoyable than it typically is per their, what they say is required things for you to do. So kind of one of the last couple things that I feel like this delivery that was different from the last C-section delivery was, number one, I hate the catheter and I hate the IV. I knew as long as I had the catheter in, I couldn't get up, and I knew as long as I had the IV in, for the most part, I had to have the catheter in. So I wanted them both out as soon as possible. I got them to take my IV out. He was born at 1:45. I got them to take my IV out after the second bag of antibiotics went in, probably around 9:30 p.m. that night. And the next morning, they took my catheter out probably, I'd say 10-ish. And then they let me get up and go to the bathroom and, you know, start the whole get up process around noon the next day. And just a little tip and a hint, I know everyone's C-section experience is different and everyone tolerates pain differently and all of that, but what really, really helped me recovery both times was to get up and get out of the bed and not just lay there. It sucks. It hurts. It's horrible. It's not fun, but laying there makes it so much worse. So I've made myself, especially this time, last time I was a little slower, but this time I made myself sit up on the side of the bed and sit there and then stand up and then go to the bathroom, come back. I would sit down for a little bit, and then I showered the next day. I put fresh clothes on. I mean, you wouldn't imagine how much better you feel after you take a shower and have your own clothes on and not that gown, and you're not attached to anything anymore. And like those, all of those things I feel like made this experience so much better, so much better than the last time. And you know, all you have to do is ask. They may say no, ask someone else. Some people just aren't educated or knowledgeable enough to be able to give you an adequate answer. So just ask someone else, or say, let me speak to someone else. You know, this is your birth, your experience, and you know, it's not fun to have a C-section, and it's not the most awesome way to bring a baby into this world, but your baby is brought into this world and you have your baby. And yes, there's things that can happen and complications, but for the most part, you know, you have your baby and he or she is there, and you know, your life goes on. And let me just say that, and I think I've said this before and make it clear, the reason why I had to have a C-section this time and not a VBAC is because of a staffing issue, or, you know, it's a liability issue at your hospital. It's never usually the doctor's choice not to allow you to have a VBAC. It's the hospital they deliver at, because they have to have an anesthesiologist that's staffed at the hospital there 24 hours a day. And where I'm from, it's a smaller area, and the anesthesiologists are all, they're on staff at the hospital, but they aren't there 24 hours a day. They're on call basically, or they're there for certain set times for deliveries or surgeries or whatever. Like in our case, my hospital had like 4, I believe, and each one of them would get called in. They were on call basically. So yeah, it's like a anesthesiologist staffed group, and then they all rotate which hospitals they go to for on call. But excuse me. Anyways, from that set aside, I just feel like that if this is a choice that you've made, or you have to make, or maybe it's just something you want, there are things that you can make or do that makes it a lot easier. And I feel like this time around the experience was, I wouldn't say that it was like pleasurable, but it was 900% better than it was last time. And ultimately, I'm glad I don't have to do it again. I'm glad we're done having children. The recovery this time, like I said, was a lot better, but I feel like that had a lot to do with, I knew what to do and knew things that helped me. And just making those small choices and small, discrepancies between the last time and this time, and just telling them no, or I don't want that, or this is what I want my baby to do. Often got told a lot of times when I would call that that's not a policy here at this hospital. Well, they didn't have a policy in place for it. They just didn't know. I mean, they didn't. Just because that's not a policy there doesn't mean that it isn't allowed. I mean, if it is a policy that you have in your hospital not to allow X, Y, or Z, I want to know why is that, and what can I do? So, just be an advocate for yourself and your baby, and just try to make your experience the best that it can be. It's been a year since my C-section, and everything is 100% fine, and it's all in the past now. But I hope these little tips, or if you're interested in knowing anything else about my experiences with the C-section, both emergency and scheduled, just let me know. Leave a comment below. The next video that I'm going to make in this kind of like C-section series is going to be what to pack in your hospital bag for a scheduled C-section, because what you pack in your bag when you're going and expecting to have a induced, delivery, vaginal delivery, and what you pack in your bag when you're going to have a scheduled C-section are completely different. And with Edison, I packed with the intentions of being induced and having a vaginal delivery, and then had a C-section, so it was not good. This time around, I knew exactly what I needed, and knew ways to make things a lot better and easier for myself. So that's the next video that I'm going to make. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Once again, C-sections are not awesome, but if you can make them better, why not, So I will talk to you guys later.